In the ruins of an abandoned Jedi fortress on the remote planet Dantooine, Tash Aranda strands all alone. At least, she thinks she's alone. She senses something in the ruins. Something dark. The darkness is stronger than Tash, and against her will, she reaches out to it. It makes her feel powerful, and it frightens her. Tash doesn't know that this is only the beginning of a terrifying journey into an evil world where she'll be forced to fight her own brother and uncle to the death.
Boo! Did I scare you? Welcome back to the library. Padawan Library. I am coming at this with way too much energy, but I am Levi Paratic. With me, as always, Tim May. And we are the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast.
Yes, we are. So, this week, our penultimate episode before the break.
Mm-hmm. Galaxy of Fear number 11. Clones.
Clones, and we're going to talk a lot about that book. There's a lot to talk about.
There's actually some things to talk about.
I mean that
very
seriously.
Interesting.
Yeah. But last week we cast the main characters from Galaxy of Fear, Tash, Zach, Hool, etc. We cast them as if we were doing it in the late 1990s. All right, as if it was a TV show in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And I specifically limited myself to actors who had appeared on shows on the WB.
Correct.
During, roughly that period. This week we were planning on casting, because in the Galaxy of Fear books, lots of the original crew, Luke, Han, Leia, etc., they appear. We decided we were going to cast them as if they were being cast in the same era. So
correct.
And I put the same limitations on myself.
I know, and I can't wait. I already know who your Luke is. I actually
let's build up the Luke.
Okay, I actually told somebody. I was telling somebody about this, and I said "Oh, it's on the WB. I already know who his Luke is." And then the person I told guessed who I think it is.
Oh, well, we'll see if you're right. You're probably right,
But let's get to that, because there's a casting rumor, and I have no sources for this, but this is a story that I saw show up on Facebook.
What?
The rumor mill, when it comes to these things, is, in my opinion, Disney is always putting them out just as feelers to gauge, what's going on.
Sure.
A character we spoke about 2 weeks ago. They're thinking about bringing back Kyle Katarn, the rumor says.
Oh.
In a show series. And they got an idea.
Maybe be in that Cassian Andor show, if that's still happening.
Mm-hmm. That would be a good place to show up for him. And then the rumor is they already got somebody they want to play him. Someone we talked about last week. Somebody who has previous Lucasfilm ties. Ties that you think would be broken, but Kathleen Kennedy is apparently extending a hand. Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf. Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, he'd make I'd be fun with him, Kyle's card.
Yeah, he'd be a lot of fun.
Kyle Katarn.
I think he's, repaired a lot of broken
I think he has,
it
too.
It seems like over the last few years, so that's good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Talented guy.
He went through a rebellious phase. Who hasn't?
It's fine.
So.
It's fine. Okay, so...
And I have some Avatar 2 news.
Oh,
you want to hear about this?
Is it still called Way of Water? Do we know?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
Great
this news...
By the way, I mean this sincerely. The Way of Water, great title.
Well, I'll tell you this, because this story involves water. Avatar 2 principal filming is complete.
Sure.
Okay, and Avatar 3 almost done. So Sigourney Weaver was interviewed recently, and she informed the interviewer that they had to train with a special ops marine crew, and everybody in the cast had to learn how to hold their breath underwater for 6 minutes, including Sigourney Weaver.
Including 70-year-old Sigourney? That's crazy.
So
I'm
apparently
sure James Cameron was just like, I can do this.
Exactly.
It's classic.
So crazy.
I can't wait for that movie. I'm glad that it's on schedule.
He's just like, I need the longest takes underwater possible. I need you all.
The fact that it got delayed another year makes no fucking sense.
Same with Batman. How it got delayed another year.
Well, Batman, I think it's just because, they pushed Matrix back. I think that's just, a release schedule thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know of any other major Disney, things that would be in the way of Avatar.
Right, there's nothing. There's nothing
I guess
all.
there's Marvel bullshit, probably, that I don't know about. That's probably all I can think of.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever.
All right, let's get into the casting.
All right, so just to recap, last week I cast as Hool, Anthony Stewart Head from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. As Tash, I cast Alexis Bledel from Gilmore Girls. As Zach, I cast Vincent Kartheiser from Angel, more importantly from Mad Men. But
of course, Pete Campbell.
Let's see. Who else do we had? DV. I don't even know who I said for DV.
Hang on, I can tell you. Let me look into. You said. Oh wait, no, I actually didn't write it down. I'm sorry. If somebody from Dawson's Creek, I'm fairly certain.
Kerr Smith.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
From Dawson's Creek, and then who did we cast? Anybody else?
That was it. So
okay,
I'll go through my casting. So I'll start with DV. I cast French Stewart. From Third Rock from the Sun, of course. Did you do your GOG?
My GOG was Logan.
You got it. Yes.
Logan's Run.
Michael York.
Michael York, who was in Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
For a very brief arc in Gilmore Girls.
And so in my GOG, I cast from Seinfeld and Family Feud, John O'Hurley. My Zach Aranda was Shia LaBeouf, legend. Tash was Michelle Trachtenberg. And I cast, originally, I cast Alan Thicke in the role of Uncle Hool. But over the week, I made a little Instagram slideshow, basically, of all of the actors that we cast with the photos that we have of them. I think he's a inappropriate casting because he's more of a fun-loving dad kind of thing, and I feel like Hool is a little more stark, a little more emotionless. So I am recasting my Hool with Unsolved Mysteries host Robert Stack.
This is embarrassing. This is a terrible casting. Robert Stack, and he is an actor, I guess. Okay,
he's so monotone. I watched an episode recently of Unsolved Mysteries, so that's where I saw him. I was like, oh, this guy.
All right. Well, let's start with our class. There's two characters that we decided to do last minute that aren't movie well, Wedge is a movie character, but we also wanted to do Dash Rendar and Wedge Antilles. Do you have castings for these guys
Okay,
yet?
I did come up with these super duper last minute. So,
all right, well, let's go with your Dash Rendar first.
Okay. This is so last minute. I am going with a person who was very young at the time, but had a lot of potential to be just a cool guy. That's right, I'm going with none other than John Hamm.
Okay.
I couldn't think of super.
He wasn't that young. I mean, he was young, but not so young he couldn't play the character.
Right.
Because him and Adam Scott are the same age.
Oh, okay.
Because they were roommates or something. I think. And Adam Scott's in Star Trek First Contact from '96, and he's an adult in that movie.
Yeah, he'd be an adult for sure. He'd be a young adult. So
young, but not
a good age for Dash Rendar. So
yeah, it's fine. My Dash Rendar.
I can't wait for this because
All right. Okay, so this actor, you would know this actor from many films.
Okay.
Including Wet Hot American Summer.
And
he is in Role Models briefly.
Hang on.
Many of the David Wayne movies.
Let me guess. Is in Wet Hot American Summer, because I don't know his name. Is
You
he
know
the,
his name.
Is he playing is it Michael Showalter?
No.
Okay.
He's part of the state, though. He's from the state.
Okay, so Ian Black?
Michael Ian Black, no.
Okay, then it's the guy who wants to get laid, but he has to take the kids on the rafting trip.
Yes, Ken Marino.
Okay.
And Ken Marino played a college professor in season 5 of Dawson's Creek that wanted to fuck Joey Potter, a.k.a. Katie Holmes. So many teachers and professors having sex with students on that show. Deeply inappropriate. Or criminal in some cases. Yeah, so Ken Marino, a legend.
That's a good casting.
Very, very funny, but also kind of very broad-shouldered, manly. So I think that works. All right, Wedge Antilles. You got a wedge?
I do have a wedge, and again, I've decided this minutes before we started recording. A man who I think kind of looks like Wedge, but is probably the same age. Sam Waterston.
Waterston?
Yeah, Waterston. From Law & Order?
Yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah. He looks
He's
just like Wedge.
ancient in the late 90s. Jack
he's on
McCoy?
TV.
Are you kidding me?
It's all I can think of first minute who looks like Wedge.
Okay. He is so old. He's in his fucking 50s at that point. Alright. That's
like
a wild
cast.
cast.
Last minute.
Okay.
You should have texted me earlier about this.
Alright, whatever. My wedge, you would know this person from such films as Metropolitan, Barcelona, The Last Days of Disco, Kicking and Screaming. A legend, a 90s king, Chris Eigman, one of the funniest actors of all time. He appeared in season 4 of Gilmore Girls as Digger, a love interest for Lorelai that many fans hate. I mean, he's not a good guy. I'm glad they didn't wind up together, but I was very happy to have him on the show. Mm-hmm. And love Chris Eigman. So, and I would love to just see him in anything, honestly. So, Baumbach needs to fucking call his old friend in his next movie. He has to have Eigman. Come on. Eigman and Sandman together. Let's do it.
That would be fun. That would be really fun. All right. So we also struggled. We didn't discuss this either, and we discussed this briefly before we got on the air. R2-D2. We were both struggling with R2-D2. Well, I didn't even bother to do it, and you had an idea for me that I thought was really appropriate.
Listen, it wouldn't work for me because of my WB restriction. I can't think of any small people that were on the WB.
Right.
So, I didn't want to, and I honestly couldn't even really think of any kid actors. They're all teens or older on the WB.
Right.
So, I had to skip R2.
Well, tell everybody
Kenny Baker can come back.
Yeah, well, tell me who you thought I would pick.
I thought for sure you were going to pick Vern Troyer. I thought it was a guarantee.
Never even crossed my mind. He'd be perfect, but
he'd be perfect. Sure, I guess. All right, but I did cast a C-3PO. Did you do a C-3PO?
I have a C-3PO. I'm very happy with my C-3PO.
You'll be very happy with mine too.
All right, I picked another actor from Wet Hot American Summer who was actually on a very hit TV show at this point in time. But I went with David Hyde Price, of course, Styles from Frasier.
Pierce.
I suck at names, so.
I think David Hyde Pierce, that's a pretty stock answer, but I appreciate it. Solid.
Mm-hmm. He's fit in the costume.
He's great in Wet Hot American Summer also. He's so fucking funny in that movie. Anyway. So
him and Janine Garoppolo's relationship is so fun. Do you remember the part where she's inviting him to come to the camp? Yeah. And she's trying, you could teach some classes, and he's like, no, and then finally he just yells at her, I said no!
Yeah, that's iconic. Yeah, no, that was the funniest movie ever.
I quote that all the time.
All right, so my
C-3PO.
C-3PO, again, all WB actors. This actor was on season 3 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer before moving on to be one of the stars of the spinoff, Angel, Alexis Denisoff, who played Wesley Wyndham Price on that show. I feel like just maybe a little typecasting, but I figured not bad.
I think he's not a big guy, but I feel like he'd make a kind of bulky 3PO probably, but I think
he's not like rail thin, like I don't know. Like,
he'd pull it off.
But yeah.
He's a guy who needs to be in more.
Sure, yeah, why not? He's probably on like some procedural we've never heard of. Alright. Chewbacca. Did you do Chewbacca? Or no?
I did Chewbacca, but like I couldn't think of any tall people.
This was so hard.
I went with Brad Garrett.
Great. Oh, I watched an episode of Celebrity Family Feud the other day with Ray Romano and his family versus Brad Garrett and like a bunch of stand-ups that perform at his club in Vegas. It's like not his family. It's like Ray Romano and his sons and his brother, I think. His actual brother, and then it's Brad Garrett and like a bunch of people that perform at his Vegas stand-up club. And it was actually like pretty funny, I had to say. Like both of them were very amusing.
Who went to, of course, the speed round?
Oh, Ray just crushed him, which fit character-wise completely. It was so classic, you know.
I can see the panicked look on his face as Steve Harvey's like trying to read him off. Like...
I know. Oh my god, it's great. It was very fun. Anyway, so dumb. All right, so my Chewie, it was impossible. WB actors, not a lot of super tall actors in the pantheon. So I decided to go with kind of a person who played a character who's kind of like a dummy. Mm-hmm. Not that Chewie's dumb, but like kind of just a dog-like character. So I went with the guy who played Dean on Gilmore Girls and is unfortunately more associated with Supernatural at this point. But Jared Padalecki, who I have no real attachment to this guy, but his character is just kind of like a dog-like character. Like he's very stupid. He starts out as like a sort of smart kid. But then he becomes super dumb once the god Jess, a.k.a. Viola Ventimiglia, shows up and just sweeps Rory off her feet, basically, forever putting Dean in the past. Well, not actually, because then later on she winds up losing her virginity to Dean. Huge mistake, Rory. What are you doing? All right, so anyway, that's what I went with. But yeah.
Ken Marino would make a funny Chewbacca too.
He would be better, honestly. I just was so committed to him as Dash. I thought it was funny. He would work better. You're right about that. And I could have come up with another Dash pretty easily, I think.
Yeah, but all right. So let's go on to our Han. So
do you want to do Han first or Leia first? Because
okay, we'll go with Leia. I'm not I don't love my Leia. I struggled with Leia.
All right.
So,
Leia.
I went with oh boy. Now you go ahead while I think of her name. Crap.
All right.
I got it, but you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You've been going first.
All right. I went with Mila Kunis.
Mila Kunis. That's
she's
that's
short.
Rough.
She's short. She's got dark hair. That's like all I could come up with.
Yeah, I mean,
she's feisty too, which is.
And I'm a fan of. I'm not really a fan of this movie, but she's not bad in Jupiter Ascending. And by the way, like, if fucking the Wachowski hive tries to come after me, fuck you. I've been on the fucking I've been like the lord of like the Wachowski fan club for 20 fucking years. I've always stood by their side. Just because I don't love Jupiter Ascending, relax. Just because you came on in the last 3 years, everybody decided all their movies were good, even though you were abandoned them for Speed Racer. So embarrassing, all of you. Now you're all acting like you always loved Speed Racer. I know it's a lie. I just I was alone on a fucking island in '08, man. Sorry. And I love Cloud Atlas. I love all of it. So, but Jupiter Ascending, easily their worst movie. I don't not even close. Anyway, so it has its moments though. And she's pretty good. So not terrible. My Leia, I had a really tough time with this.
Okay.
Because I almost went with somebody, but then it would have been just essentially a trio at the top that would have been ported from another thing entirely.
Okay.
So I had to put somebody aside. Well, I'll talk about her in a minute.
Sarah Michelle Gellar, is that?
No. Sarah Michelle Gellar never was an option. She was. I love her, but she probably could play Leia, but just so visually so different that
right.
All right. So I had one person for a long time. I had Sherry Appleby from Roswell for quite a while. Who talented, not a huge Roswell fan, but she's pretty good on that show. And I was like, okay, this is okay. But then, right before we started recording, it struck me. Wait a minute. You know what other show was on the WB and was a very good show? Felicity. Carrie Russell. I know she's in fucking Rise of Skywalker, but nah. She should have played Leia in the late 90s. Perfect. Again, like I've always said, that her and Natalie Portman look like they're related. So, that would also fit if they also were making the prequels at the same time. It would just fit together. And, so I'm going with Carrie Russell, who I love. And obviously, she later on did The Americans, one of the greatest TV performances of all time. So
I thought of another WB actress. I don't know if you considered or not, but this is just something I thought of. Eliza Dushku. Or Dushku, whatever.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I didn't really think of the Buffy people too much. Just that, I don't know why, really. Because I love those performances, but I feel like these are slightly closer. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. The other person I considered, I'll mention after I announce my next two.
Okay, all right. So do you want to go? Let's save Han for last, because Han's been done before, and it has mixed results. So
it's going to be anticlimactic for me, but that's fine. All right, Luke. Who's your Luke?
My Luke is Ryan Gosling.
He's very young at that point, but yeah.
But he was young Hercules at that point.
I remember. I know. He was young Hercules.
Very young.
Yeah, extremely young. But yeah, I mean, he would definitely work, I think.
My struggle with Luke was I need a blonde actor here, and so many shows from the late '90s have no blonde actors in them. Yeah,
I mean, and all the other kind of the iconic blonde boys of the '90s are all a little too old. Brad Pitt would have been too old, probably.
Yeah.
In the late 90s. He could have played him in the mid-90s.
He's a little too big by the late 90s, too, so...
He's never actually big. He's wiry as fuck in Fight Club, just because he's...
No, I meant as a celebrity, metaphorical
too famous.
big.
Okay,
he's too famous, so...
Yeah, sure, why not? Okay. My Luke, I assume you got it right. I can't imagine you got it wrong, but... He's the star. He's the star of a core god level WB show, Dawson's Creek. Dawson himself, James Van Der Beek.
Well, I mean, and it's so obvious. He auditioned for the role of Luke Skywalker, so he's perfect to be Luke. Didn't he?
He auditioned for Anakin. You mean?
Yeah, for Anakin, right?
Did he?
I thought he auditioned for Episode 2.
He might have. I'm curious how that would have gone. That's interesting. I'm mixed feelings on him. I love the character. I love the show so much that he struggles in parts of it, I would say.
Well, there's of course I've never watched the show, but I know the famous still of him crying.
Oh, well, that's iconic, and it's a great moment. Great moment. It's basically when.
Is it when he figures out his dad died from the ice cream?
No, that's later. The ice cream death is later. That's the end of season 3, which is when the love triangle between him and Pacey and Joey was finally introduced, because in the first couple seasons it's just Dawson and Joey are destined for each other, and then Pacey's Pacey making the moves on Joey doesn't happen until season 3, so that and Joey picks Pacey at the end of season 3 officially. And and Dawson's out on his deck and he's crying. It's an iconic moment. I know it's like been memed forever, of course, too, but it's a classic moment. And also, the editor does him no favors. Like, it's not. I don't even really blame him on that because, like, the way, like, the editor and the director, like, why are you up so fucking close in my guy? Like, and like, what are you telling him to do? Like, to it's just like show it more and more. Like, it's crazy. Like, all right. Anyway, Han. All right. I'm just gonna reveal my Han.
Okay.
Now, because I think it's kind of anticlimactic after what I just said. My Han is Joshua Jackson, who played Pacey on Dawson's Creek. I actually think maybe this is not terrible casting, but that's why I avoided Katie Holmes for Leia, who I thought about heavily. But I thought taking the full trio.
That would, yeah.
Dawson's
she would
Creek.
make a good Leia.
Yeah, and I didn't. And Michelle Williams isn't going to work as Leia, even though I love Michelle Williams, and she's probably my favorite character in Dawson's Creek. Jen, shouts to Jen, R.I.P. Spoilers. She dies in the finale. Sorry, but yeah, I don't know if she'd really work. And I thought about so I thought about Katie Holmes, but I just thought I should mix it up a little. So Kerry Russell is my Leia.
Well,
Han, Joshua Jackson. I think actually Josh Jackson maybe like a little later, maybe during the later parts of the show, or like the Ocean's 11 period when he's in the opening sequence of Ocean's 11, where Danny Ocean's like fucking over all these young celebrities in the card game. Like, I think that era could have maybe played Han in like Solo.
My Han, I'm pretty happy about. I did some thinking about this, and Harrison Ford has been cast in a young form twice, and both times, But during the time period, I'm thinking
Actually,
Lucasfilm
3 times really.
Oh, you're right. 4 times actually.
Indiana
Now that I
Jones.
think of it, 4
Oh yeah,
times.
well, because the young Indiana.
Young. So I figure Lucasfilm wants to keep it in-house. They want to keep it consistent with young Indiana Jones.
Oh my God.
I picked, of course, Sean Patrick Flannery as Han Solo. So
Fair enough. You're not gonna go with Joaquin,
no.
Rivers' brother? Joaquin would be the right age this time.
He would be. He definitely would be.
He'd actually be too young, honestly, for Han at the age.
Yeah, because he's like in his 30s when they make the movie. So Harrison Ford. So
right, but I think who knows? This is very silly. I enjoyed this though. My
I did
WB
too.
cast, James Van Der Beek, Kerry Russell, Joshua Jackson, Alexis Denisoff, Chris Eichmann, Ken Marino. Pretty good cast.
I'll go through mine again. We got Sam Waterston, John Hamm, David Hyde Price,
Pierce.
sorry, Sean Patrick Flannery, Ryan Gosling, Mia Kunis,
Mila Kunis,
and Brad Garrett. Vern Troyer.
Oh yeah, Vern Troyer. Don't forget about Vern Troyer.
Oh, well, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun. So, I
hope listeners aren't thinking, though, that next week there's going to be no fun for our final episode of
we
Galaxy
got a lot
Affair.
to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about, and I just want to announce this right now. So I was on Wikipedia, and I was looking, I was looking at GOG's page, and I wonder if GOG shows up anywhere else, beforehand. And I saw that he got mentioned in a hyperspace story. Of course, hyperspace, the name of the Star Wars fan club. You had to pay, you got exclusive stuff. R.I.P. But in a hyperspace story called, hang on, I need to get the title here. It's loading.
It's loading.
Still loading.
Loading.
I should have written this down. Oh no, it didn't even take me to what I need. It took me to the wrong thing. No.
Oh my god, this is ridiculous.
This is so embarrassing at this point. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Death
You got-
in the Slave Pits of Lord.
So, that story
And, okay.
we're going to also be reading next week. So.
Mm-hmm. And
I assume we'll
basic-
review it after, because I'm not
Yeah,
going
I
to read
guess it would
till
take place
the
after.
book. Yeah.
Right. So it's
So-
available. It was available on Facebook. I'll try to get a link up so people can read it. But it is a Galaxy of Fear related story written in 2009, not by John Whitman. So it's
Yeah, 2009, 10 years later.
It's real
Over 10
real
years.
later. I
Yeah.
wonder if it was like a Halloween thing where like somebody at Lucasfilm was like, "I'll write a Galaxy of Fear story."
Fair enough. So, let's see. It's been a half hour. Holy shit.
Oh wow.
I was going to talk about how I watched The Trial of the Chicago 7, the new Aaron Sorkin movie. Pretty good.
No, good.
I recommend it. It's on Netflix. Worth the watch.
I watched the what was it? Oh, Class Action Park, the Action Park documentary on HBO
is that
Max.
good?
It's a lot of fun. There's
All right,
so
I'll
many
watch it.
crazy stories. So
I'm going to watch it for sure. I keep seeing it. I'm like,
it's like
All right.
story after story. Like I could like sit here and tell so many moments
Wow.
from the documentary. So
Just watch the documentary then, or check out interviews with that director or something. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. But yeah, we're deep in now. So let's take our break, and we'll talk when we come back. We'll talk about clones.
all right, bye.
Welcome back to Padawan Library, the 77th episode. That's right, a very important episode of our show. 1977, landmark. All right, I don't know what else to say about that. I just like during the break, I was like labeling a file, and I was like, episode 77. That's it's important. It's a Star Wars podcast. Okay, I'm Tim May here as always with Levi Parachik.
Hello.
And this week, we're on the penultimate book of the Galaxy of Fear series. It's called Clones. It has a cool cover.
It has a dope cover. I think it's the coolest cover. Steve Chorney, of course, is the artist who does the covers for these books. I would say he's like a step below Struzend in terms of what his content
I mean,
is,
yeah, he's
but
not,
he's very Struzend in my
It's
opinion.
the same
too.
style.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he's
but-
not the guy. By the way, I rewatched the Back to the Future movies recently. I was going to say, he couldn't do the Back to the Future poster is what I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
But those movies are fucking good. Did you know those are good movies?
I was just talking about those movies with somebody today,
Guess what?
and those movies are amazing.
Those are good movies. I was always never down on it, but I was always like, well, 3. I don't love 3 the way I love the other 2. Like I like it a lot,
Right.
but I watched it again. Oh man, that ending is so heartwarming. I am just like, I was so happy at the end of that movie. So yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
great.
Back to the Future.
We were
Great.
discussing the guy I was talking to. We were discussing how like in it's so great in how in Back to the Future 2, the whole premise is they go to the future to fix one thing, and then they screw everything up, and they have to like go. It's so complicated
It's
to get back to the
incredible.
right place.
You know what's a huge knockoff of Back to the Future 2 is Avengers Endgame. It's literally exactly the same structure.
It is.
It's
That was-
like I mean I like that movie, but yeah, wild. Anyway, all right, so
But this cover for people who have not seen this cover, I'll describe this cover. In the background, we have Tash and Zach looking like they're pulling apart a fight. This fight, of course, is between Uncle Hool and Uncle Hool. Huh? And then in the front,
Can't
big
believe it.
a lightsaber battle going on. Darth Vader versus Darth Vader.
oh, terrifying,
Oh.
terrifying. All right, so
And I want to talk about Vader on this cover. He's got his hand up like, no, don't hurt me. Like, his expression is really funny.
yeah, no, I mean, listen, these covers, a lot of them are these hollow foil covers, but then there's also the, traditional cover. This one seems like there is no hollow foil cover for this one.
Right.
So
Right. There's only one that I think only exists in hollow foil cover, and that's Spore. All the other ones with holofoil covers have like actual illustrated covers, but I could not find one for Spore.
And the illustrated covers are so rare for a lot of them. But all right, so this book picks up a little bit later, like about a month or two after the previous book, where Hool, Zach, and Tash have settled on Dantooine. Now,
they said they were going there in the last book.
I questioned last week why they would go to Dantooine to hide from the Empire when Dantooine was the former site of a rebel base. We get into the rebel base in this book, and they try to explain away that like it's actually a perfect place to hide from the Empire because why would they ever think to come back? I'm like, that's horseshit. That doesn't. There would be an Empire base on Dantooine now, like an outpost.
Or if not that, probe droids like probing the place, like
it's
just
ridiculous.
like it'd be under surveillance without a doubt.
You just have to accept that, unfortunately, but it's fine. All right, so I'm not like actually mad about it, but it's goofy. So anyway, they've been oh boy, they've been traveling with a group of indigenous people from Dantooine. What are they called?
I believe they're the Dantari.
The Dantari, yes. The Dantari, and whose leader... well, we don't know he's the leader at first.
What is his title again? He is the... oh, crap. I didn't write this down, and I knew I should have written it down.
It's like, not Guru, but it's in that...
He's the Gru? Is that
it's
it?
It's Gru something.
Yeah.
It's Gru! Isn't that how his voice sounds like in those movies?
Who grew? Oh, you mean Gru from Despicable Me?
Yes.
Anyway, that I think that's how he speaks.
Yeah, he sounds like this or something. I don't know.
It's definitely a heavy accent that he pulls off very well.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
So
we'll get there.
We don't even know his title at first.
He's a Garu, a Garu, Garoo, a Garu.
Garu, maybe.
Garu
or Garu, yeah, whatever. So yeah, his title is Garu, but we don't actually find that out right away because initially he's just very suspicious of the Arandas.
Yes.
And Uncle Hool, he's suspicious of what he calls off-worlders. And interestingly enough, appropriately, at least in the early parts of this book, he kind of reveals layers later on, but in the early parts of this book, he's appropriately named MAGA. M-A-G-A. I gotta say, you texted me earlier in the week saying, I can't wait for you to find out what this character's name is. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then when I read it, I was in shock. Listen, obviously, like, everything's, heightened right now. But it legitimately, like, rocked me to my core. No, it didn't at all. I'm joking. But
it's so
crazy.
timely. If this if we read this after the election, it wouldn't be nearly as timely. So
it's perfect. So, and it also gives me an easy excuse to be like, "Hey guys, make sure you vote. Please
exactly.
vote." I'm sure some states are still allowing mail-in applications, but you can also still vote in person.
Have you heard? This made me proud to be a Pennsylvanian. Have you heard how many Pennsylvanians have already voted, Tim?
How many?
900,000.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. 2 weeks to go still, basically.
So. It's the highest of any state.
Oh, man. Yeah, PA. I hope, please go the right way. I cannot.
This is where the Liberty Bell was born. We know what's up.
It's where the country was born, absolutely. So, let's hope. Anyway, so... This character, I'm sure our iTunes reviews are great with our political messages. I haven't looked at them, but I notice anytime I'll occasionally glance at another podcast's like just iTunes reviews, and anytime a host is even mildly critical of Trump, like or even in a very passing way, Like, there will be at least one person that's so pissed about it, and they'll be like, oh, he's suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, blah, blah. Like, these whiny motherfuckers. It's crazy. Anyway. All right. There you go. I shed that. Yeah, what?
It's good.
It's so crazy. I don't...
Oh, but
anyway. Not worth. I don't want to get into it. We talked too much about it already. Anyway,
okay.
so yeah, make sure you guys vote, please.
MAGA hates outsiders.
Okay, listen. MAGA the character reveals himself to be a decent guy later in the book. I want to point that out. But I gotta say, it's unfortunate for MAGA as a character that he had to be read about in the year of our Lord 2020.
Yes,
and because I was just like. Because, like, when he was suspicious of our heroes at the beginning, I was just like, yeah, fuck this guy. And then, ultimately, he's revealed to be, like, fine. Just, But we'll get to that. Anyway, so, this is a nomadic people. What are they called again?
They are the Dantari.
Dantari. The Dantari are nomadic, so they travel, and the family is traveling with them, and they set up shop, and they can see they set up camp, and they see there's like buildings off in the distance, and
two of them,
and Tash is like, I thought you guys didn't build any buildings, and they're like, we didn't build those are, what do you call it? Those were built by off-worlders of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Yep, off-worlders.
So we'll get to who built them in a second, but I do want to say that there's a conflict between MAGA and Tash, which is there's a big rock slide on their way to camp, and like people get injured and stuff, and Tash thinks she saw MAGA start the rock slide, and so she, in the chambers of the kind of like council or whatever of these people, publicly accuses MAGA of starting the rock slide. And MAGA's just like, this girl knows shit. This girl's trash. And
then Tash gets mad. And MAGA is apparently, he has the role of the Garu of the tribe. And he is a magic man, he's a mystical man. And one of the reasons they say he doesn't like the Arandas is because Tash has shown her force abilities.
Oh, yeah.
And she's been lifting a crystal her mother gave her recently. And then
a red crystal that is described as a ruby red color, which I thought was
and Hool can of course transform, and they've seen him transform, so like it puts MAGA in an interesting place. But anyway, he's like, this girl, I don't care, she's totally wrong, but there's somebody putting something in my mailbox, my in-laws mailbox, in a pickup truck, and now they're just driven away. Anyway, suspicious activity.
It's probably just a canvasser or something.
Yes, but anyway, so when he calls Tash out, Tash uses the force to pour a hot bowl of soup into his lap.
So, and at this point, later on, Tash and Zach are talking, and Tash is like, Zach's like, that was so funny, what you did, you used your force abilities, that's so cool, and she's like, no, that's the way to the dark side, I feel bad about it. And so, at this point, then MAGA shows up. And he's just like, you want to see these buildings or not? And so he guides them over to these buildings, one of which is, he says, was built by the Jedi, like, maybe thousands of years ago? A very long time ago. And so Tash is super pumped. Zach's like, I don't want to go in there. And then, but, MAGA, basically is like, oh, you should go. Sends Tash in, and then right after Tash is heading in, he tells Zach, anybody that goes in there never comes back. Ha 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 ha. So at this point, I'm just still like, fuck you, MAGA. You're a piece of shit. And so, so why don't you pick it up here?
Well, from there, this is where the spooky things start happening. So basically, she goes to the rebel base after this. She leaves the temple, and she goes to this rebel base, which she discovers is not empty, there are rebels there, apparently. They're all wearing the same jumpsuit. They meet a character by the name of Iril, I believe his name is. And
like that.
And he's like, we're stranded here. We were left here. We need help.
They meet the character. Let's talk about how they actually meet the character. She's in the temple, and Erol, or whoever...
Oh, this is right. Mm-hmm.
Greets her by choking her, grabbing her by the throat and choking her. And at this point, by the way, Hool and Zach they catch up right as this is happening. And Hool knocks the dude over the head. It's like, what are you doing with my niece?
Mm-hmm. And he hits him with a rock, I think.
Yeah. And he's just like, I don't know. And like, he's just like, listen, I was shocked to see anybody. Like, such a normal response to just like being surprised to see somebody is to choke them. And especially a 13-year-old girl. And so, but then they all follow him to the rebel base for some reason. It's, I get why they follow him, but like, the fact that they go willingly with him rather than like being like, nah, fuck you, go, and then like tagging him.
Yeah, because he like tells like a story about who he is, and Hool's just like, I'll believe him. He seems sincere. And they go with him.
So weird.
They go to the rebel base, and they say that they have been left there. They've been stranded, and can you help us fix our ship? They pan over to the ship, and the ship is like a makeshift ship built out of 3 other ships and wood. Like, it's like wood paneled, and they're like, that's never, ever going to fly.
For my fucking Tenchi Muyo heads, it's like a Tenchi Muyo ship. You know what I'm talking about. A dry ship. You know what I'm talking about.
So, but then
dark bullshit. Sorry.
Yeah. Then Hool is like, well, I have our ship, and he's also retrofitted the shroud so that he has a watch that all he does is he types in a code, and the shroud will fly to them. So he's like, all right, I'll help you guys off, but it's going to take a couple hours for the ship to get here. So they do that. Then they go and they're just snooping around the place, waiting for the shroud to show up. They get on some computers. And the computers are mostly wiped clean. But then Zach, he types in, is it Irol's name? And it's like, oh, here's Irol. He's a member of the Rebel Alliance. But this photo of him, this is not the same man that we saw. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh. This doesn't really ultimately matter all that much. But it just shows that things are suspicious.
Ooh, we should talk about the prologue of this book.
Oh my god, we forgot.
Okay. So
the prologue of this book is pretty cool, actually.
In the prologue of this book, this is I don't know if this is when the rebels the Empire goes. Has to be after the rebels go to the Empire goes to check out the abandoned rebel base. But when Vader is on Dantooine, he plans to come back. He gets called away, but he goes to the Jedi Temple. He opens the Jedi Temple, and then he gets a phone call from the Emperor, and he's just like, I gotta go, but I'll be back. So that's the opening of the book, and it proves important later on. So let's go back to the story.
Yeah, thank you. That is a cool opening, though, because he reflects on, it's like, oh, he remembers when he was a Jedi. It has to be vague, because it's still before the prequels. It's actually right before the prequels, so I'm sure there was a heavy mandate to be vague as fuck anytime you ever...
Exactly.
So, they, at this point, eventually the scam is revealed. They figure it out that what's going on is my phone is ringing.
Okay, well, Tash goes back to the temple and she encounters herself.
It got blocked. And the call got blocked. Everybody, everything's good. All right, sorry.
But Tash, she encounters herself. She's attacked by herself. She gets away from herself, and then from this point on, she's seeing doubles of everybody, including Hool and Zach. So you get into the explanation of what's going on here.
All right. So basically, at this point, then she runs back to the camp where the Dentari are, and it's been ravaged. And the only person left is Maga, and Maga's like, yo, you betrayed us. You're a traitor. Like, you came back with the man with no face, is what he says. And you, arrested everybody and took everybody. And she's like, that wasn't me. Like, it was my evil clone or whatever. Twin. She says twin. Or not twin. I don't know. What does she say? Who cares? But she's like, it was the evil version of myself that I fought earlier. And he's just like, nice try. She's like, come with me. And they go back to the base, the rebel base. And at this point, she kind of stumbles into a lab where she's seeing... What's up?
Isn't the lab in the bottom of the temple, the Jedi temple?
It is. It's in the bottom of the temple. You're right.
Yes.
She finds in the bottom of the Jedi temple there's a vat basically growing a new Tash. So she realizes this is a cloning operation. She's like, that's fucking wild. That's crazy. So then when she returns to the base after she finds out about the cloning thing, she sees who's there. Darth Vader is there. And she's like, oh shit. Darth Vader's here.
Now, because, like, he shows up when the Shroud is arriving.
Because, the Shroud, they were calling the Shroud with a remote. And it was taking a couple hours to get there.
And the rebels keep saying, our leader can finally leave. Our leader's been trapped here. This is where they find out that the leader is Darth Vader. But Tash notices something immediately. Because, of course, the Arandas have encountered Darth Vader before. Yes. And she notices that his armor is built the same way that the ship is built, kind of haphazardly, made out of wood, kind of thing. And this is where she makes the connection, oh, the man with no face? That must be Darth Vader. So this is where things get a little suspicious.
I would love an action figure of this version of Vader. Like
I would too. I wish the cover reflected that Vader as well. Yeah. And we'll talk about what actually was going on later with this decision, so anyway, so there's a cloning operation, and there is these little droids in the cloning operation that do brain scans, basically, and that's how they make the copies of Hool and Zack, and this is how they're conscious, they're smart, whereas they realize that the rebels that are there didn't have the brain scan, so they're kind of just not as intelligent. Like they look like people, but they're not those people, I should say. Okay. And then this all leads up to
there's a big clone melee at this point.
Yes, a big clone melee. They get like Tash is being okay. Tash at one point like encounters another Tash. She changes her clothes to blend in. And then she encounters another Tash wearing her clothes who thinks she's the real Tash. This is a kind of a weird moment because this clone Tash thinks she's the real Tash, and then the other evil clones of Tash and Zack show up. They see that Tash, who is a clone, who thinks she's the real Tash, and they kill her immediately. And then the real Tash, who is dressed as the other clones, she runs through the crowd and grabs another Tash, and she's like, this Tash, this is the real Tash. So they killed that Tash, too. Then we have where they all meet up, and we have the Hool on Hool melee, basically, where Hool is fighting Hool. They keep transforming into various monsters and battling each other. And then Vader shows up. You think Vader's going to kill them.
Why doesn't anybody ever talk about Hool on Hool crime? Terrible joke, I'm sorry.
It's a very bad joke. And then, so the Vader shows up, and then real Vader walks in. And this is where Vader, he looks at the Arandas, and he's like, you three are always mucking my muck. And you will pay for this. But then he sees the fake Vader and is just like, well, I have to kill this Vader. So this is where we have the Vader on Vader battle. There's no fun Vader lines there. The Vader dialogue isn't fantastic here.
He's pretty generic. So, yeah, and there's the big Vader fight. What happens after
then the Arandas escape. They get away. They run back to they free the tribe, they get out, and then they escape on the Shroud.
Hide in the Shroud, basically, until the Empire's, probe droids avoid them or whatever. So they escape, and then what's going on back at the base? Vader.
Well, Vader, he takes all the cloning equipment, because he's just like, well...
this is, by the way, this cloning equipment was developed by the Jedi thousands of years ago.
Yeah, that's...
We'll talk... I mean, listen, it's not John Whitman's fault that he didn't know what the Clone Wars were.
I feel like that works because, like, it could go with the the message of the hypocrisy of the Jedi. The Jedi were getting into maybe some dark stuff there,
Yeah,
and that's
okay,
why
but
they
this was
abandoned the
supposed to be
temple.
thousands of years earlier. It's not It's not like at the low point of the Jedi right before the Empire.
Well, there was also the Sith Wars, so maybe it was a Jedi temple, and the
Sure.
Sith took it over, and it became a place for that dark magic and cloning.
Good Lord. All right.
So basically, the whole explanation here to what is going on is that Vader shows up at the beginning of the book. He opens the temple, and that's when, unknowingly to him, they capture the droids in the temple, capture his DNA, and do a brain scan. This is where second Vader, Clone Vader, comes into play. So Clone Vader is born, then Clone Vader starts gathering DNA at the Rebel base and making clones out of that DNA to form an army, and then make that army build him a ship so that he can get out of there. And this is where things get a little weird, because Clone Vader is obviously like Anakin, and then Anakin chooses to make new armor for himself.
Yeah, listen, it's not... I would say, like, oh, this is just because it's before the prequels, but then, we see Anakin in Empire and Jedi, so even if you don't know all of his backstory, like, he's a fucked up human body in, like, a mechanical suit. So if if he's a clone who's a clone of Anakin, and thus just a human being, why would he want the suit? I mean, I guess, maybe, his identity is so subsumed at this point.
And also that too, like, so he makes the new Vader suit, and then his lightsaber doesn't work either, because he tries to kill Hool with it early on, and it doesn't work.
I gotta say, I found the cloning technology in this book deeply confusing.
Yeah, it was.
And, it's all to the book that it doesn't line up with, like, what cloning was, kind of like, the way cloning worked, ultimately, in Attack of the Clones. But, which is, so I'm not, like, actually mad about it, but it's just, it also is strange that it's, like, seen as this ancient idea, the cloning, when there's a thing called the Clone Wars that happened within the lifetime of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. Right? So, like, that seems a little...
and the Jedi are involved with it too, which is a little...
And this is supposed to be, like, ancient. Like, I don't know, it's strange. I will say this book... I enjoyed it for the most part. It was, like, kind of fun. By the way, MAGA reveals that MAGA's a good guy in this book. It's not his fault that his name now means what it means. But I just...
I put the MAGA as, like, one of the most, like, this is one of the funniest things since the Skr.
Oh, yeah.
And the skurs.
It blew me away.
And their wings that make skr sounds.
I was in shock. Alright, so, yeah. This book, though, I think it's on the higher end of the Galaxy of Fear books. Finally, there's some more movement on Tash and the Force, which we didn't get into deeply here, but she's...
But she does struggle with the dark side, which I think is, for the whole character arc, is important.
Absolutely. And I like... I kind of wish this book happened basically right after GOG went down. Because, like, there's just, like, a bunch of crap in the middle there that it's, like, doesn't matter at all. Like, they could have just gotten to Dantooine right after this. Because this feels like it's...
I have a suspicion about GOG and why GOG ended so soon. The Jedi Prince books are only 6 books, also put out by Bantam.
Yes.
And something I've read about Paul and Hollis David's contract with that was a 6-book contract with an option for 3 more. And I suspect that Galaxy of Fear was a 6-book contract with an option for more. And so he ended the story at 6 thinking it was the end. That's where everything is revealed that we've built up to this point. And then we have 6 more books afterwards with almost no story except Monster of the Week episodes.
Yeah, and I also wonder if we're going to get a real ending next week.
Yeah. I wonder that
So,
too, and
we'll see.
And I don't know if we will.
The people, guess what? Don't sell us on the Instagram comments. We don't want to know. No shots. Thank you for listening. But
Yes.
I saw the comment about a certain later series that if there are listeners that don't know, I'm not going to repeat what I saw, but it was very
Say out of the
annoying to
comments
get
if you
the
don't
spoiler.
know.
All right. So anyway,
Okay, but I'll I'm going to give this 6.
yeah, I might go like
midichlorians.
6.5. I had a pretty good time with it.
Mm-hmm.
It I think it has some of Whitman's better writing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't like quote anything passage and verse, but
I
Chapter
realized
and
something
verse.
that's not explained. So you remember the rock slide where Tash thinks she saw Maga do it?
yeah, never comes back. to
Never
that.
explained. So is there a clone of Maga? That could be how Maga's magical, but he's
Oh,
a
that
clone.
yeah. It's probably you're just supposed to remember that there's that. Oh yeah, that would have been a clone, but not particularly well executed. Just on a basic storytelling level, it's fine. I'm looking forward to the end here. Oh, I got a text. And, you heard it on the podcast.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm curious.
Before we end.
The hunger. What?
Oh yes, the hunger,
That's-
which promises a return of Boba Fett and possibly Yoda.
Ooh.
Which, if Yoda does show up, I kind of wish he doesn't show up. Like, I wish they didn't spoil it on the cover, but
Yeah. Wow.
he is alive at this point, so they could end up on Dagobah.
Of course. That'd be weird if you ended up in Dagobah like a year and a half before Luke, and like and like Yoda's so goddamn out of his fucking mind, like he's never seen anybody in 20 years.
It'd be funny if he does the same, like he does the same
Yeah.
shtick that
That would be
he does
very,
to Yoda,
like-
to Luke.
That'd be very expanded universe of any variation. Like just like, how about he's gone a little nuts? That's why he's acting that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think it is part of it is he's fucking with Luke, but I think like undeniably that's the implication is that like this guy has been alone for a very long
For a
time.
long
So
time.
he kind of
he's
has
so
to like
delightful.
ease. Oh god, incredible stuff. All right, guess what's good? The Empire Strikes Back. All right.
Hey, I realized we forgot a casting that we were going to do.
Oh,
Okay, so we had the idea. I hope the Mark Hamill idea. Did you do the Mark Hamill idea?
that Mark Hamill would have a cameo.
Yes, Mark Hamill would have a cameo in the show as a one-off character in an episode, not Luke Skywalker.
So
Did
one
you
of the
think
characters from the books.
from the books.
I'm trying to remember names here. We already cast Gog.
I mean, just a one-off character too, from like just one of the books.
Let's make him MAGA. Let's just go. Which is unfair to unfair to Mark Hamill. But I am only because I can't think of any other characters right now.
What about the
earlier
Skurs?
books.
Think of the classic character name from the Skur people.
I don't. What's his name?
Shashak.
Oh, Shashak. Yes.
I didn't cast him as Shashak though, so
Yeah, he
cast
can
him
play
as
anyone. He can do crazy voices and stuff too. So
Well, I cast him from City of the Dead, Dr. Evazan.
oh yeah, he'd be awesome.
He would be great, especially because he has the interaction in A New Hope with
Yeah,
Dr.
that'd be
Evazan,
great.
so it would be a lot of fun for him to play Dr. Evazan.
He should play
for a
Dr.
role.
Evazan in like Cassian Andor or some shit. That'd be a lot of fun.
That should be the pilot episode because they'd be like, and Mark Hamill in Galaxy of Fear, and everybody would be like, well, is he Luke? Like,
No. Nope, James Vanderbeek's Luke, baby. All right. So yeah, next week we're wrapping it up with the hunger and with that short story.
Yes, the death on the minds of Lord,
Something like that.
So.
We'll post links on social media, which you guys can see at Padawan Library on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And email us at padawanlibrary@gmail.com. During the break, we're doing a big mailbag episode at some point and a Mandalorian discussion. That'll happen in, December, probably.
So it's 8 episodes. It starts in, 2 weeks? Or is it next
starts
week?
next Friday, but it's...
Next week.
We'll see. Maybe we'll do it like right before the finale or something. Our speculation, some shit like that. We'll figure it out sometime in December. If we decide to do it that way, early December. If not, if we do it after the show,
9 weeks away from now. So.
Yeah, if we do it after the show, it'll be late. It'll be like New Year time probably. So you got plenty of time to write us questions. We got all kind. We'd love to answer your questions. But other than that, one last time for this run.
Until the library on Nepsis 8 is closed. Wait.
The
until
books
the
are
books
due back?
I screwed that up so
Whatever,
badly.
man. We're
Just
good.
end it.
We're good.
End the show.
See you guys next week.